Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Cody Bellinger, and we are right on time. It's beautiful Wednesday afternoon
right on
in
time.
Chicago.
It is 1:20.
1:20 sharp.
There aren't people in the chat telling us we're late.
The chat is late.
Yeah, they're late.
Chat is
They're
late.
late today.
You heard me.
Del Lados, we call them.
Del Lados, yeah. Del Tardy.
Del Tardy. We are continuing our evaluations of some of the positions of the Cubs. We've done left field. We did DH. Now we're going center field and right field today. We'll have some fun with that. We're also going to talk a little bit about possible realignment suggested by somebody recently, Jim Bowden of The Athletic, and what we think of that. And we'll have a little fun maybe with Aaron Rodgers at his expense, potentially as well.
It's always great when it's at
You can
his
only
expense.
imagine. You can only
Actually,
imagine.
when it's at his best, when it's at his expense.
That's when Ryan takes the unbiased down.
Yeah.
Exactly. You guys feeling pretty good today?
Well, it's 40 degrees, the sun is out, and the snow is melting, so yeah.
Makes you feel different, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The sun's out in the wintertime here, and you're like, I don't care how cold it is. The sun's out, I feel different.
Spring's coming.
There's something I really respect about the people who will like go out of their way to wear shorts on days like this.
Yep.
That's when you know you're from the Midwest. Because people on the West Coast, they see that or hear that, and they're like, well, these people are crazy.
Or no jacket.
Yeah.
I didn't bring a jacket today, and I took the train.
Neither
Come
did
on.
I.
And see, I
That
had
was
a hoodie.
fine. I had a hat on.
I
That was
brought a
good.
jacket, but I just like carried it with me, didn't put it on as I walked from my car. Just
It's springtime.
I didn't even do
Well,
that.
Ryan was driving so fast, he didn't even need a
we're
jacket.
not gonna talk about that.
98 miles per hour.
I didn't even talk about that.
We don't need to talk about it. All right,
Sorry,
let's get to it. Let's start with center field. We don't have to give it a grade, but center field is interesting because Jed Hoyer, we talked earlier this week, I believe it was Monday, about the John Heyman podcast where Jed Hoyer was evaluating the Cubs, his offseason, whatnot, and he actually said that center field, he believes, is the toughest position now to fill in baseball. With a quality player, he finds that the most difficult position to fill. That's why he feels good about PCA coming up the pipe, maybe Alcantara in center field as well, but it's one reason they knew they had to address it. Defense up the middle with the adjustments, and they haven't necessarily had a star in center field, right? Like we did a poll where like who's I think back to Jerome Walton and Bob Dernier. Like Dex was a unique guy to have for a couple years, Dexter Fowler, and you look at what Cody Bellinger could be. He's probably a rental, but he's certainly an upgrade to what they were doing the last couple years in center field.
Yeah,
We hope.
a lot of people are already convinced that the Cubs are going to try to flip him at the deadline, but I'm not. I think he'd have to be, I guess, just average for the Cubs to maybe do that. But even then, like I don't know if they would do that because you ain't going to get that much for him.
Right.
I think
if
I
he's
think
really good, they likely contend for some sort of playoff spot.
Right.
And then why are you trading the guy?
Right. So, like, to me, that's not even an idea in my head of him, of that being a possibility. I think we see Bellinger in a Cubs uni all season. So, now, if the Cubs are bad and he's good, that some wild shit would really have had to happen. Probably a bunch of injuries or something like that. Now, if he's like mind-blowingly good and the Cubs are bad, maybe. You know what I mean? But I think he definitely does bring a different vibe out there that we haven't seen in a while. Even though he hasn't been good offensively the last few years, like he brings experience. He brings he brings a mentality from someone who has had great success in Major League Baseball.
It's a former MVP.
Right. So like that's not like anyone the Cubs have had there really, at least in the last, my lifetime, it feels like. I can't think of anyone who's played center field for the Cubs that has been like a perennial all-star, MVP caliber player. I mean,
A handful of games for Sammy. That's the best they've had.
Yeah, right? Like, so I don't know. I think Bellinger makes it all the way through. The only way I could see him being traded is if the Cubs are bad and he is just like insanely good, so good that the value is like his value is as high as ever, and you get like a deal that you can't refuse, or if someone like that comes up from the farm comes up and kind of takes that role or shows that they can take that role, and the Cubs aren't good. I just don't see them. I don't see them moving him at all, just because I think that they'll be good enough to where they're not going to completely sell at the deadline.
So you're not buying what Niren is saying in the chat. He's saying he should be flipped for a bounty if he's hot.
No, because like you still don't know what you're going to get out of PCA eventually. Like, yeah, he's a great talent, all this, but we're talking about a guy who's won MVP, who's been an All-Star. Like, if he is hot, like, why wouldn't you want to see that through?
Well, I think I can see in the sense that if he's hot and has an awesome year, I mean, he made he's making 17 and a half at least for the year. I mean, he has the the mutual option, whatever buyout. Like, it's going to be at least 17.5 million, and that's after 2 really bad years. Yeah. So if he has a good year, if he's even like above, just like above league average bat, if he somehow is even close to like an all-star, he's going to cash in on that this offseason. And are the Cubs going to be the ones to do it? They may not be. So I think what Niren's saying is that if that happens, if he gets to the trade deadline and he's hot, like he's had a great year, he's gonna get paid during the offseason, then you have to think about, okay, do we want to risk? Do we want to keep him? Like, what's more valuable, I guess?
Right.
At this point, is keeping him, trying to make a playoff push in a year. You may sneak into the playoffs, probably not going to win a World Series, or trading a guy who's playing at the best he's played in 3 years for a really good, a really good group of prospects or whatever you're getting back, rather than risk losing him in free agency in the offseason. I think that's what I think Niren falls on one side of it, but that's going to be if he's having that kind of season, that's the question that Jed and Carter.
I'm not saying that it's out of the question.
Could be a very fine line, right?
Yeah.
Like Niren's saying if they're 500, well, but is 500 good enough to get you the second wild card? How much do you value any postseason experience for guys like Christopher Morel, Nico Horner, just for building a culture of winning for the next great Cubs team? You saw what 2015 did for those young guys. It gave them a confidence going into 2016 that they could have never imagined, right?
Right.
So even if you get into the postseason and you lose this season, there is something to be said for a bunch of young guys coming up to see that the franchise is winning and trying to win again. That's why a lot of these veteran guys are on the team in general, because you could have just repeated what you did last year.
Yeah.
You could have repeated the same thing. It would have been miserable for the fans, but if you don't care about the fans, which I'm not saying they don't, but you could have done the same thing. Instead, you're trying to show the next young generation that this is how we're going to win. This is how you go about your business. And, I saw our guy Dubs in the chat saying he loves the fact that PCA has already said he's going to go to spring training. He's there now, and because he's at big league camp, he's going to soak up and watch everything that Cody Bellinger does. Because even if he doesn't play to a big league level, the way he went about his business at some point in his career made him an MVP. So there's still something to be learned there. That's the more interesting part of the position for me. Number one is whether or not he's traded, and that's a fine line for sure. And then number two is if he is traded or if he's just not playing well and he's not giving you anything, who's your backup plan at center, right? Like if Cody Bellinger is just having an absolutely miserable first half of the season, and yes, you've paid him $17 million, but he's not giving you anything offensively, well, then you can just make him a glove and defensive backup. But is it Morel? Or isn't Morel kind of going to be getting a shot to be the regular third baseman? Does that open the door for PCA if he's super, super hot to somehow break into the big leagues this season? Who's the backup at center?
I think if you're looking at that, it's going to be probably I think Morel's in that mix. Nelson Velasquez, he didn't have a great year in center field, but he's probably going to be in that mix. Brennan Davis, when he comes up, probably will be in that mix. Yeah. I think PCA has a while to go. I don't think it's going to be very, very hard to see him get more than like a cup of coffee at the end of the year.
They would have to be.
So who's the most likely center fielder after Cody Bellinger?
If you're talking about this season specifically, then
let's say
maybe
in
Davis.
month one he gets hurt. Knock on wood that it doesn't happen, but like, let's say he high ankle sprain, running in the cold weather in center field. Who's going to play center field for a month?
You're probably looking at Morel or Velasquez at this point.
But what if Morel wins third base? And you've told Morel, you're the third baseman every day. That's what we want you to be.
Well,
have to pull him off third base.
He's a versatile player for a reason.
You're going to have to move him off third base.
Yeah. Because then at least Wisdom can play third. And you're hoping that Wisdom can get back to the 2021 form defensively at third base at least, because I have no idea what happened to him at third last year.
Barb says call up Davis, put him in left, Happ in center, or just leave Happ as the Gold Glover in left and put Brennan Davis in center.
Yeah.
But again, huge question mark. We have to know if he's healthy and back to normal.
I think PCA is definitely like the only way we would see him earlier than what Ryan's saying in terms of, a September call-up, there would have to be a major emergency, like injury after injury, performance not playing well enough, like and all of that while the Cubs also being in it. Until the end of the year, if they're not in it and they say, okay, we'll give you, let's see what you can do for a month or a couple weeks, whatever. I agree. I don't think we see PCA really at all.
I just don't think it's a good idea to rush him to the big leagues when he's 21 years.
And he's coming off his first year.
No, he's not even 21 until like April or May or something, or March, whenever it is.
He's got one professional
20
season.
years old. There's
his development.
There's no reason to rush him to the big leagues. Let him go through. I mean, if he is so good that he forces your hand late in the year, that's a different story. But like if we're talking about like mid-season, trade deadline, like end of July, early August, whatever it is, don't rush the kid. Like let him develop. He hasn't even played a Double-A yet. Like let him develop and go from there. I mean, he's your top prospect. He is your number one prospect. He is going to be your center fielder of the future. Your perennial Gold Glove guy out there who, if all goes well, provides a really good bat as well. Like he's your guy, and if you're rushing him to the big leagues just to try to sneak into the play, it's. I understood it when they did it with Morel last year because they literally needed someone that could come up and play like 6 different positions with all the injuries they were having. But like PCA is your top guy. Like, you don't want to stunt that. You don't want to rush him. You want him above anyone to really develop at the pace necessary. So when he comes up, he's ready to go.
So we're going to say that we'll all agree that Cody Bellinger will play the most games at center field this season, health permitting. And the next player most likely in games played in center field this season will probably be Morel.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
And then after that, we don't know if it's Velasquez,
Davis,
Brennan Davis.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I would say if I had to give a preseason grade for evaluating what they have in center field, I think you could say my grade would be C+.
Yeah.
Because I like the plus part is for the potential, right? C is it's an average grade. They have a guy that's trying to rebound his career, a prove-it year. The ballpark should play well for Bellinger if he can turn it around with the hitting instructors that he worked with in the Dodgers organization. But there may not be another position on the Cubs team right now that has a, what would you call it, a greater spectrum for how things could go. I'm going to start it in the middle at C+, right?
Yeah.
But if Bellinger is the guy that was the last 2 seasons and they don't have anybody to come up and you're leaving Morel at third, I could see how that could teeter to being one of the worst positions for the team.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, if Bellinger even gets back to an all-star level, somewhere in between, I could see how it would be much closer to a B+, A, or for some reason he gets back to MVP level, or he plays well and they replace him with Brennan Davis, who does a great job. I could see how you could push it all the way to an A.
Yeah.
But what other position on the team can you really walk into it saying, wow, that could be anything from an A to an F?
Third base, maybe?
I don't know how you get to an A at third base, though.
If Morel just really takes a huge
Morel
step.
would have to turn into Mike Schmidt.
I'm not even.
Well, no, okay, I know what you're saying. Morel would have to have a really, really good season.
Yeah. I think the ceiling for third base is probably like a
lower.
B. It's definitely like a B.
That's right.
For me, I'll give center field right now. I'm looking at it from how much better is center field compared to last year? Significantly better. So in terms of getting better at the position, I'll give it a B right now. But yeah, you're right, Luke. There is a potential for that to just be not great at all. But also there's great potential for it to be a huge part in the Cubs being a playoff team this season. So for me, I'm giving it a B because you got, not only did you get better defensively in center field, but you have a guy who has a high ceiling in terms of being way better offensively than anything that the Cubs had there last year as well. So, that's why I give it a B.
You said B. I'm gonna say C+. The plus comes from Bellinger added. It boosted that position defensively.
Yep.
He's a solid. He may not be. I mean, he's won a Gold Glove, but I think it was in right field, 2019. But he's a good, solid center field defender, even if he's not at Gold Glove caliber. I'm going to disagree with Cody in the sense that offensively, you got a guy who I don't know that offensively he has boosted anything because he hasn't been that guy in over 3 years. He hasn't been that MVP guy. He hasn't even been an above-average bat in 3 years. So you can't say right now that he has done anything to boost that team offensively in center field. And if we kind of look at some of the numbers that, even Ortega, I think he actually had a better offensive season than Bellinger did last year. So if you're looking at it in that sense, if you're looking at just what's happened in the last couple of years, you have no idea if Bellinger's going to be better than what Ortega brought you last year offensively.
That's right. That's why I'm saying the spectrum for
it's huge.
There is no position on the team that has a greater range for what it could be. It could be an absolute dumpster fire, other than maybe okay defensively or good defensively, or it could be their strongest position on the team.
And then that's what I'm saying is he could easily make this a very, very strong position by playing the same kind of defense he's brought, being healthy, and bouncing back from, I don't know, he had injuries and stuff that kind of affected him the last couple of years. He bounces back from that and has a really good offensive season. Then you're looking at a position where okay, center field has been set from the start, right?
Right.
But I don't think you can say that right now because he hasn't done that. I mean, he had I think overall WRC plus was an 82, 83 last year, coming off a season when that was in the 40s. He's had 2 bad seasons at the plate in a row, and until he proves that he's healthy and he's bouncing back from that stuff, until he starts to prove that, I don't think you can automatically say he improves his team offensively. I don't think you can say that until you see results on the field.
I think his defense alone makes it way better than last year.
Well, that's what I'm giving it a C+.
I would say that I'm going to take back a little bit of what I said. I said they definitely made center field better. You know what? I don't know if I can even say that. They've increased their depth at center field, and they've increased the potential for center field to be better. So those are both positive moves. They were the right moves to make. I like the move of Bellinger, but we still could end up with it being maybe the worst position in the team.
Well, you can definitely the depth at center field last year was Rafael Ortega, Christopher Morel, and Nelson Velasquez. This year it's Cody Bellinger, Christopher Morel, and a combination of maybe Brennan Davis or Nelson Velasquez. It's certainly better than what it was last year. And again, that's how I'm looking at it, is you definitely feel better about the position going into this year, unlike last year when we knew going into last season that center field was going to be a huge question for them. And,
it still is, though, because last season, I agree, the names are better.
Yeah.
I think there's some history of success for those guys.
At the very least, you're getting a lead defense in center field, and maybe that's not worthy of a B to some people, but to me it is, considering how this team is building itself. They built this team on pitching and defense.
When we launched this network, though, there there were a lot of conversations about you got to get Ortega at bats to see what we've got there. We might have a guy or Hermosillo.
He had a 900 OPS in the second half.
We got to get our guy Hermosillo out there, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just
Stuck, why are you shooting
I'm,
low blows
I'm,
at me?
I'm not. I'm saying I'm reinforcing that we could have a dumpster fire. We could have one of the best center fields in baseball.
I agree.
It could go. That's the range, right?
Yes.
What you don't want to miss out on is having the greatest set of cornhole bags and boards in all of Chicago. So if you already got the best coverage for your favorite teams, you also want to get fitted out the best sports gear around. Foco's got you covered. Soldier Field living room, north side, south side, hoodies, slippers, signs, bobbleheads, everything in between. You can also get decked out like DeMar with apparel from the leader in sports merch and collectibles, Foco. Looking for that perfect gift for a football fan in your life? Foco's got you covered with hoodies to fight the Lake Michigan breeze. Check out Foco.com. Click the link in your description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. Now, Chi-Town Custom Cornhole, that's where you improve your game going into this summer when we get here in the spring. They are the number one cornhole provider for the Chicagoland area and Illinois since 2007. Their signature box style can be digitally printed, covered in vinyl, and painted. Cornhole boards come with built-in drink holders, recessed in on the back, LEDs that light up the hole, and exterior handles for easy carrying, handcrafted scorekeepers, veteran-owned and operated. They ship anywhere and offer local pickups, specializing in corporate designs for your company's next marketing and social event, wedding gifts, gifts for all occasions, and especially for tailgaters and backyard barbecues. Oh, backyard barbecue sounds so nice right now.
They're on the way. It's almost spring. Spring training's next week. It's coming.
Go to their website, ChiTownCornhole.com, and make sure to follow them on Instagram at Chi-Town Custom Cornhole Boards. Tom, good people.
Tom's my guy.
Good boards.
Good boards, good people. Definitely celebrate. Or not celebrate, support, sorry.
You celebrate them too.
Yeah. I'd throw a party for Tom.
with Chi-Town Custom Cornhole boards that we got in the office.
That's right.
They still look
Absolutely.
awesome.
So we're going to do right field as our next position. But first, I want to do a mystery player. Mystery players for you again, all right? And before we get into diving into right field, I have two players, player A and player B. They play the same position. Let's take a look at player A. Slash line last season of 262, 336, 433, 14 homers, 46 RBI, and a WAR of 2. He played 111 games.
Is this B war or F war stuck?
Uh-oh.
This is a B WAR.
Oh, no.
Don't tell Corey and Brendan.
Corey and Brendan will be really, really upset with you right now.
Okay, that's player A. Now we're going to see very similar numbers, but slightly better for player B. A slash line of 266, 351, slightly lower at 413. 15 homers, so one more homer. 50 RBI, just a handful of RBI more. 2.2 WAR, almost the same thing. And player B played 8 more games last season. They play the same position, okay? In fact, they both play right field. Who's player A? Who's player B?
Why?
So is one player a Cubs player and another player another outfielder?
That is correct.
Okay.
Well, can we put player A back up real quick?
Player A.
So we got, that looks, I remember, Seiya played 111 games last year. I know that off the top of my head. I would say that's Seiya.
Player A is Seiya Suzuki.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the number 111. Just for whatever reason off the top of my head, I remember the number.
Ryan lives on Baseball Reference.
Who is player B, though? Who is the right fielder that has almost the same slash line, 1 more home run, 4 more RBI, almost an identical WAR, and played 8 more games? Their seasons are almost mirror image of each other.
And it was an active player last season.
An active player, yeah.
National League or American League?
National League, played 119 games. This player also had obviously some sort of injury or was called up or...
Yeah, I only played 119, so...
Trying to think of right fielder. Wasn't Carlson, was it?
No.
Okay.
This player is easily considered a top 5 right fielder.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's see.
It's not Mookie Betts. There's no way that's
No, it's not Mookie Betts.
Mookie Betts had a very, very good year.
I'll give it. It's Ronald Acuna.
Really?
Well, he was hurt. He didn't start the year.
A lot,
Coming off an ACL injury.
Similar numbers, yeah. Wow.
So I went through a list of people trying to evaluate nationally right fielders this year. And everybody wants to rank 1 through 10. You almost don't ever find Seiya Suzuki in that list, okay?
Right.
I saw one from Odyssey that put him at 10, and I thought, well, it's a Chicago connection. That's why they're putting him at 10. Ronald Acuna is always in the top 5.
Yeah.
And I understand that he has had the success. And if I could pull an even trade for Ronald Acuna for Seiya Suzuki,
Probably
don't
would,
understand.
Yeah.
I would make that trade before you could even let the ink dry. However, Seiya was also trying to learn in a completely different league in a completely different country, okay?
Yeah.
And they both had injuries. Seiya had the finger injury. So their seasons were limited. They both were dealing with injury. And one guy's trying to get used to a completely different league. Now, everybody thinks Ronald Acuna is going to have a absolute breakout season, bounce back to the guy he was, one of the top players in the league, spark plug for the Braves. I think a lot of people believe Seiya will have a better season in Chicago, but I don't hear anybody ever comparing him to Ronald Acuna. Last year, they were almost the same player.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have, with seeing player B, definitely would not have thought that was Ronald Acuna.
I was shocked.
I mean, knowing that he missed a lot of the season because of the ACL and
I thought he played center field too. I didn't realize he played. My bad.
That makes me. Ronald Acuna, great player, should have a better season. But then when you bring up Seiya, and it's like he put up those numbers similar to what Acuna did. You know, not exactly the same situation, but, where he dealt with his own injuries on top of all the other stuff he had to deal with coming to America and learning MLB. He had a good season. And it was his rookie season, technically. I do think Seiya could have a better season than what he put together. May not be an all-star season or what people would see as an all-star season, but if he's giving you, if he's giving you better numbers than that, if he's giving you 20-something homers, right? You'll take that for a guy, again, would only be in his second season of what is not a completely different brand of baseball, but he talked about how, the pitches are different, the pitchers are stronger or faster. It is a different brand of baseball than what you get in Japan. So
for sure, he's
learning the whole game, and he did that for a full year. If he can have an even better second year, you definitely take that, even if he's not at Ronald Acuna Jr.'s level.
Yeah.
Even close. MLB.com ranked their top 10 right fielders. Again, Seiya's not on the list. Number 1, Aaron Judge, because he had a WAR of almost 12 last year. Then Mookie Betts, Bryce Harper. That's probably everybody's top 3. And 3 of the best players in baseball. No question. Then Kyle Tucker, Ronald Acuna, George Springer, Starling Marte, Teoscar Hernandez, Fernando Tatis Jr., they think will be moved to right field by the Bogart signing. And then Hunter Renfroe is who they had at number 10. I look at that list and say there is potential for Seiya to really improve the Cubs with a better season this year. Yeah. So I love that. At the same time, I also look at that list and go, Judge, Betts, Harper, Tucker, Acuna, Springer, Tatis. Man, right field is a deep position in the major league. Just like shortstop is, some of the best players in baseball are in right field. So the Cubs may not have that, but if Seiya could meet them somewhere in between.
Well, I'll say this much. In terms of WAR, which, a lot of you nerds like to use that as the deciding point on who's good and who's not. Bryce Harper, 2.4 WAR last year. I'm assuming if this is from MLB, they're probably using FWAR. I don't know. But either way, a lot of that is because...
So maybe mine was B-WAR. Where I took mine was B-WAR.
Well, what I'm saying, the only reason that is a 2.4 is, one, because he got hurt. And they had to DH him all season. If the DH wasn't a thing in the NL, he wouldn't have been able to play. And he's going to start the year on the shelf this year, too. And Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to start the year on the shelf because he's still suspended. I'm pretty sure, right? Isn't he?
Cheater.
Yeah, I think the start of the year. Yeah,
I think it's
Yeah.
like 8 games or
Right?
something small. It's not a lot. I don't believe.
Starling Marte 3.0 WAR. I mean,
He's getting old.
he's getting older. Like, I think there's definitely. By the end of the year, I think you could see Seiya Suzuki sneak in here if he does take that next step, like we all think he can. I look at names like Kyle Tucker, though. I think Kyle Tucker can. Honestly, I think Kyle Tucker could finish in the top 3 of this because he was a stud in the World Series. And he seems like someone who's going to break out for the Astros even more this year, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And of course, Ronald Acuna is definitely primed to get back to like the player that he was coming off that injury.
I don't see a shot for Seiya to break the top 5.
No,
personally,
I see top 10 though.
But if he could break into the top 10 on a lot of lists, it would show that the Cubs have a bright future in right field because he's not that old. I mean,
he's 27.
5 years. That'll be the second year of his 5-year, $85 million deal.
No, he's 28.
He'll be 28, or he is already.
He just turned
28.
28.
Yeah,
He'll be 29 in August.
Yeah.
So if I had to give a preseason grade for right field, B-, but I don't think the range is for great to dumpster fire. That doesn't happen in right field. I don't see how, Seiya might be able to take me to a B+. Maybe he takes me to an A-. But if I'm comparing him to the rest of the league, that's why I think B+. B is probably a peak for this season, even though I think he can have a really good season. And the downside, I don't see it being worse than a C.
Well, if we're going to look at it like we did center field, like who's the backup if he gets hurt?
Well, that's
I mean,
Mancini could play some right.
Yeah.
Mancini
Brennan
plays him
Davis could
right.
probably play there too if he can play center.
I think you're looking at again like Nelson Velasquez is your backup in that position. Mm-hmm. Didn't have a very good year last year. I think he was like below, and I think he had a negative WAR and not negative, but below 100 WRC plus. Like he didn't have a great year.
No, he wasn't.
But he was a pretty solid prospect when he came up. Maybe he wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
And I think you're looking at it if he's not starting the season in AAA, which he might. He's like probably your backup right fielder for Seiya. But it's not going to be a point where like you're making sure you're getting him in. So Seiya, it's going to be a point where like Seiya's probably going to play every day unless he needs like an off day here and there. And that's when a guy like Nelson might come in.
Deluzio, the backup outfielder they brought in. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a guy we didn't mention for center field. I mean, they brought him in as a backup outfielder, right? Like,
right. Although Mancini's
fast and probably can defend pretty well. That's
Mancini's probably, if you had to list it, as he's probably your 4th outfielder.
Yeah.
Right? He has versatility to play other positions. He could be your DH, but if he's not your 4th, then you're talking about that other group. It's Velasquez, Deluzio, it's maybe Brendan Davis if he comes up.
Yeah. Well, as far as a grade, like the difference between right field and center field is that even though Seiya Suzuki perhaps didn't have the type of season you were hoping going into year one, I don't know what anyone's expectations for him because you just didn't know what you're going to get from someone from coming over from Japan. I will say that his month of April was awesome. He won Rookie of the Month. Then he got hurt, came back, struggled. Great month of April, struggled because the league adjusted. Then he got hurt, came back, and then it was kind of hot and cold for a little bit. And then in that second half, he found it somehow. Like he was consistently a threat in the batter's box for the Cubs. And you're taking that momentum from the end of last year into this year, and you're hoping the defense comes around this year too because he was a Gold Glove type right fielder in Japan. So. To me, yeah, I'm with you. Like B- is probably where we're at with a ceiling of an A- probably,
but a higher floor than you have in center field.
But I don't think it goes like I would be mind blown if it went lower. Like if that grade went lower than a B-. I think we at least get the same numbers from last year.
The ceiling's not as high as center, but the floor is certainly higher
than
than center field. And I wasn't surprised by his bat in his first major league season because I think we expected some inconsistency.
Yeah.
And we expected him to go through some ups and downs because it was his first season in the big leagues. I was surprised that the defense didn't translate for him for whatever reason. Not that it was horrible, but I think there's as much or more room for improvement for him defensively as there is offensively.
Yeah. Well, it's also like right field at Wrigley Field is
tough.
And when you're learning that, but then you're also learning it for the first time in like April and in May, and when the wind is howling every day, pretty much like that. It makes sense that it didn't translate right away. I think
he's got a great arm. He showed off the arm.
Yeah,
and they had sold him on the weather's pretty nice in the spring.
Yeah, right. they got that one really nice winter day.
I hope that he really does take off this year because he's got the personality to be a real fan favorite, not only for the Cubs but in all of baseball.
Garrett mentions Darius Hill, minor leaguer, played all 3 spots last year. Hits the ball really well. It's one of those things where he's not on the 40-man, so he's probably not going to start the season in the big league roster. If they were to call him up, it would take some roster maneuvering and that kind of stuff. So,
how old is he?
25. He's 25, so he's still relatively young, I guess. Hasn't made his big league debut. Youngish. But he's a guy that he showed out pretty well last year. If he does that again, you could probably see it eventually. It's just going to take some maneuvering, so I won't. Not that I would keep him out of that mix. It's just right now he's probably looking at starting the year in the minors and then kind of.
I think he could be someone like what Morel was last year. Like people know the name, but don't know it like we know PCA or Brandon Davis.
Help himself by having a great spring.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of those guys, whether it's Velasquez or Hill or Brendan Davis. There are a lot of younger or youngish guys that could really help themselves by going to Mesa and having a good Cactus League season, showing something while they're there, trying to separate themselves from that pack. Seiya 14 homers last year, considering he only played, what did I say, 119 games? No, 111 games. I'd be surprised if he's healthy this season if he doesn't hit at least 20. I don't know what the preseason projection is on him, but I would say if I had to pick over under 20 home runs, I would go over for Seiya Suzuki this season.
Me too.
He is right now projected at 21.
I'd go over 25 if he can stay healthy.
You'd go over 21? If you had to place the wager, you'd go over 20. If it was at 25, you'd take the over.
Yeah, I'd take the over on a 25. Because, again, he played 111 games, so if he stays healthy and he doesn't – do we all think that he's going to go through those ups and down stretches again? I guess it could happen, but I'm choosing to believe that he's going to take that momentum from last season into this season, and I think he could be a major power threat for the Cubs this year.
If he hits 26 home runs, he's in the top 10 in the right field. He'll move into that top 10 list if he hits 26 home runs this season.
I just think this, just being able to stay healthy, if he can play 145 games, I think that he could do it.
Hey, please make sure you subscribe, by the way, to the YouTube channel for CHGO. Give us the thumbs up, the 5-star likes. I see even Michael Collada saying he'll make you an offer you can't refuse. Hit the like button for the show today. What's it going to cost you? Nothing.
I saw one comment in there from I think it was De La Cruz.
Yeah.
I lost it, but
De La Cruz
it had something to do with I wish I could remember what it said. But it was from De La Cruz. And now I feel really dumb for forgetting it.
All the way at the bottom?
It was at the very bottom,
there.
Umps squeezed Seiya all season. He had awesome strike zone recognition. And it's true. The amount of times we watched him strike out looking because the ump made a bad call.
Especially early.
Early,
I think that impacted him a little bit. I know the injury did too, but early on when he wasn't looking at video, the first month of the season, the times that he struck out looking, you were like, well, he's right. It was a ball. Mm-hmm. He didn't swing at it. But I think after a while, he started to lose a little faith in the major league umpires, and he started to expand his zone a little bit because he was getting rung up so many times on a borderline call. He wasn't as good at identifying that and staying within the strike zone later in the season. I believe the numbers would back me on that.
Yeah,
I remember him talking about kind of around the time he got injured, and he was talking about that he didn't want to try to adjust to that kind of stuff.
Right.
like he wanted to, he knows his strike zone. He knows what the strike zone should be, and he didn't want to like try to adjust himself to fit that kind of stuff. Like he was still gonna have the same approach that he had.
He was sticking with that for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think he ever got egregiously, chasey or anything like that. Like he may have done that a little later in the season. But then, I mean, even that September, he had a really good September. So, like, he finished the year on a high note as far as, at the plate, high note. So you hope that he could drag that into, keep that going through the offseason, do his work. And now he's in Arizona now. We saw those pictures from Rich, our friend
jacked.
Rich. Or no, was it from Rich? No, I think he tweeted it out himself that he was going to Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
But he's there. Yeah, he looks jacked. So, I mean... Yeah, I think at best the Cubs just hope that he can kind of carry what he did at the end of the year, bring that right into the beginning of the year, and then improve upon that as well.
See, now there's a spring training story we could do. Yeah. If you could, Ryan, when you go, if you could talk Seiya into working out together, just pump some iron, throw some plates on there and be like, show me what you
go out there and tell him
that
go out there and tell him that I'm taking the over on 25 homers this year. Like that's how much belief I have in him. All right.
We'll both put 275 on the bench and see who could do more.
Super chat from our guy Fernando. He says, too much math. No one said there was math today. Point taken. You're right.
Yeah. We did do a lot of math there.
We don't math. What we do is wager on DraftKings. Cody, do you have a DraftKings pick of the week for us?
Well, guys, it's Super Bowl week, right? And
week.
I have put mucho thought into this. But on Sunday, I will be riding the Philadelphia Eagles money line, -125. I hate betting against Patrick Mahomes, but I am going to do it. I just think their team is better overall than the Chiefs. Chiefs coming in with some receivers banged up, and outside of Chris Jones, their defense isn't very good. So if the Eagles are able to sustain Chris Jones, I think the Eagles will be able to not only run it all over their defense, but also move the ball through the air.
Frank Clark's good.
Well, yeah, okay, they have more than Chris Jones, but I think the Eagles' defense is better than the Chiefs. I think they have a better offensive line than the Chiefs, and also they stop the run. So if they're able to stop Pachenko, unlike the Bengals were, then I think that they can win. So I'm taking the Eagles. Remember, the only Super Bowl that Patrick Mahomes has won is when he faced Jimmy Garoppolo, and this is coming from an Eastern Illinois alum. I love Jimmy Garoppolo. He's going up against Jalen Hurts this time. Put some respect on Jalen Hurts' name, man. The guy is a stud.
And DraftKings also has some like cool like the boosts that they're putting up, like the daily ones. Bet this by like 8 p.m. or whatever it is before it's obviously not the Super Bowl day, but like they had the other day plus 100. They boosted to plus 100. Jalen Hurts or Miles Sanders 1+ rushing touchdown, like to plus 100. I like those odds.
Yeah. I like that.
They had whatever.
I'm also taking tails in the coin flip.
I'm going to do that too.
Tails never fails.
Tails
never fails.
Tails never fails.
I'm going to have 9 wagers on the Super Bowl.
You're going to have 9?
Yeah, because I'm finally signing up with the DraftKings app.
Okay.
I'm gonna get my $5 bet. I'm going to place it maybe right after the show if I sign up that quickly. And then I get my $200 in free bets, which is 8 $25 bets. I'm going to go bam, 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 bam.
Oh, wow.
Now, the question is, should I take for my 8 bets that are $200, should I throw that on some parlays, or should I just play straight $25 bet, hit the over here? So, simple stuff, like I'll take the over, I'll take this guy to score a touchdown, I'll take the coin flip.
And I'm saying this because I understand how those free bets work. For the sake of value alone, you should not place one of those $25 bets on anything at minus money, if that makes any sense. Like the Eagles on the money line are minus 125. You should, instead of taking that, you should take
Plus,
you should do a parlay. You should do a parlay of the Eagles to win and for throw in a prop in there, and then you'll get plus money.
Now you've totally confused me.
I'm just saying, like,
we may have to have a Zoom sit
because
down
you don't
on Saturday.
Remember, you don't get the $25 from the free bet with it. You get the money that the $25 will create. That's what you'll get. So that's why I'm saying you got to do things with plus money, because you'll get more in return.
Gotcha. All right. I follow you now.
Devontae Smith first touchdown. Boom.
Oh,
there
wow.
you go.
There it is.
I do like that, actually, Devontae Smith. I've every parlay I've put on, like, the Eagles in the playoffs has had Devontae Smith in there.
Yeah.
It hit one time, but it was an anytime score, not first touchdowns.
You should go to Game Time and buy tickets to the game and just go.
It's a Super Bowl game?
Super Bowl.
I mean, if I'm there, so if spring training starts on, I think the official day is Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like 3 days before that.
You're already there.
I might as well go, right? I could look on Game Time. I don't know how expensive those tickets are going to be.
I don't know, but the way you drive, you could be in Arizona
There
by
we go.
tonight.
That's true, and Game Time might have really, really good tickets.
That's so true.
Good deals on tickets. Game Time is the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows. Ever dreamed of sitting in a seat you never thought you could? The 50-yard line, courtside, behind home plate, floor seats at a concert. It's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy. You won't find a better deal this season on Cubs tickets, Sox tickets, the rest of the Bulls season, the rest of the Blackhawks season, and then you look in the fall, the Bears go, the Sky when the Sky start playing, those kind of every team in Chicago that you need, find tickets on Game Time. Game Time is created by the fans and for the fans. It guarantees the lowest price. If you love CHGO, then you'll love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. Join over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and score the best seats to all your favorite events.
I got to get a screen grab of what Mike Dubs is suggesting because I'm going to place the Mike Dubs wager. Take the Eagles -1.5, Hurts anytime touchdown, 2-leg parlay.
I do like that. However,
I'm calling it the Dubs special.
You'll get more value if you take the 1.5. But if the Eagles only win by 1 point, you're gonna hate life. So that's why I do. Yeah. I would do Eagles money line and then Hurts to score a touchdown. So you won't make as much money as if you did the 1.5, but just like by a few bucks.
Yeah,
Colada.
Colada said he'll be watching Game 7 of the 2016 World Series on Sunday. Drinking Goose 312.
Very good.
If Corey was here, we would ask him what exactly happened in Game 7 of 2016 World Series.
That we would ask Corey.
We would ask Corey because Corey would know. But
yeah,
you want to fill in for him?
The Chicago Cubs won the World Series on November 4th, 2016.
November 2nd.
November 2nd. Sorry, I get my days mixed up. November 2nd.
It's all debatable. When did it start?
At 11:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. Some say November 3rd because it was after midnight in Cleveland. But sorry.
Do people forget that?
People do, in fact, forget that. It's a shame that people do, in fact, forget that.
Hey, speaking of 2016, happy birthday, Joe Maddon, 68 today. 68.
68 or 69?
Oh, he's 69? He's 69
nice.
today?
It's a nice day for him. Very nice.
68. Very good.
Shout out friend of the program, Joe Maddon.
69 today. Obviously, one of the most eccentric managers in Cubs history. Maybe not the most eccentric, but certainly on the list. Speaking of eccentric, did you see our guy Aaron Rodgers has gone complete loon now? And by our guy, I mean your guy.
He's not my guy.
This
not
dope
guy. Not even close
went
to my
from
guy.
doing his ayahuasca thing or whatever that is in Peru, where he made love to his relatives and all this weird stuff that he talks about. Like now he's saying that he's going to do an isolation darkness retreat. Have you heard this?
Yes.
On Pat McAfee.
He's going to go to a small house with no light, no sound, nothing at all. His only interaction with the outside world for 4 days is going to be a two-way slot in the door that's used to drop off his food. How did this guy ever get good at football? He's a complete nut job.
I genuinely really thought of Sandra Bullock in Bird Box, like just putting the thing over his eyes so he just can't see. Because like, how do you live in the dark for that long consistently? With like you're gonna open a door and the sun's gonna peek through at some point. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I mean, crazy. He said, I've had a number of friends who've done it and had profound experiences, end quote.
Maybe they hallucinate because there's no light and they have no idea what's going on.
So real quickly, which Cub player in history or current would you least like to be locked into a dark house for 4 straight days with only a slot for food? I got a couple I could think of. Big Z is one, because if Big Z got irritated by the darkness, he's just going to start swinging, and sooner or later he's going to connect. John Lackey might be another one, because he's just going to be asking for hard-boiled eggs. You know, and the smell alone right there is going to be terrible. Farnsworth's another one. All the juice he's done in his career, lifting all those weights, the rage that he could be building up, but by the time that could be bad news.
I want to use recent Cubs. I don't know if I'd want to. Me personally, I couldn't be in a dark room with Wilson Contreras right now. So
because he's in St. Louis now.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Boy, it could be some profound meditation though.
There'd be a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming.
That could be a very good
Milton Bradley's
trip
a good
for you
answer.
to
Milton Bradley's also a good answer.
It would be actually. I think it would be good for you because it would be just you and Wilson in the room. No connection to the outside world. Just you and him. Eventually, you'd have to talk out your problems, and that might be good for him. You know, it's like therapy.
That's a good spin zone, but
actually, Maddon would be both fun and tough. Maddon would be fun because he'd have a lot of fun conversations and a lot of great stories. At the same time, he likes to talk so much that at some point he'd probably drive you crazy in total darkness.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't be able to do what you set out to do in the entire experience.
Ups.
The whole chat is saying Milton Bradley.
Yeah, Milton Bradley's the answer.
So yeah.
Thank you, Dubs.
All right, we have 9 minutes left, and Cody saw the Jim Bowden article in The Athletic where he says, expansion's coming. He believes it's going to be Charlotte and Nashville, and when it does, he wants Major League Baseball to totally realign everything. I think a lot of people believe if expansion comes, especially with the way they're going with the schedule this season, that it's very likely that they may at some point go to what the NFL is, 2 conferences where you're just playing conferences and meeting the World Series that way. He's suggesting a Midwest division. He's suggesting 8 4-team divisions. The Cubs division would be the Midwest division, the Cubs, the White Sox, the Brewers, and the Twins. What do you like about it? What do you hate about it?
Well, I think the number one thing is they don't have the Cardinals in there. Is
that a like or a hate, though?
That's a hate. That's a pretty historic rivalry. Like, you go, obviously Yankees and Red Sox are number one, but I think the Cardinals and the Cubs are right up there, right?
It's up there.
Yeah.
The Cubs-Cardinals is right up there, and to get rid. I mean, I guess we're kind of getting into a sense where like even the divisions don't, like as they're currently constructed, don't matter as much just because they're playing every team every year, less division games, whatever. I think it's 13 division games, something like that on the year.
Which I like. I like what they're trying this year.
I think it's 13 per division opponent or whatever it is. Which I agree. I like that because then you get to see them play everyone every year. I forgot what was my train of thought going.
Well,
I forgot where I was.
Do you
at.
like the idea of a 14 division?
There you go. But so divisions don't mean as much even now, and they definitely will then. But at the same time, not having the Cubs and the Cardinals in a division, probably playing more than Cubs playing the Cardinals more than they'd play every other team outside of the division. Like that needs to happen. I think that's a division or that's a rivalry that has to be kind of kept together.
He moved the Cardinals to the Southwest Division, and the teams in there do make sense. Astros, Royals, Cardinals, Rangers. You're going South Central, right? You're taking the 2 Texas teams, and then you're taking the 2 Missouri teams. So I see how the Cardinals do fit in there. I mean, do I see how the Cardinals fit in with that group just as much as I see how the Twins and Brewers fit in with the Cubs and White Sox? Yes.
I don't. It's not even just Cubs, Cardinals in this, but also Giants and Dodgers aren't in the same division in this realignment either.
It's tough too.
But then there's some clear East. Well, I get it's all geographical, but they have one division that has Mets, Yankees, Red Sox, and Phillies. Which honestly, that'd be a cool division. I won't lie. That would be intriguing. But like, you just need more consistency of divisions like that, in my opinion.
At least everybody in the divisions in the Midwest division, everybody's in the same time zone.
Yeah,
that's good.
I can't not have the Cardinals in there. I'm sorry. You got to have the Cardinals in there. Half the reason that I'm a Cubs fan is because I love to hate St. Louis. Not 25%, whatever. That's part of the fun. The part of the fun is being able to hate the team that you're a rival to. That's sports. That's fandom. So yeah, it just wouldn't feel right. And then someone said in the chat that because of the realignment or the current playoff format right now makes divisions stupid or whatever, meaningless and stupid. That's not true, because we've seen teams win the division and have a record worse than teams that have gotten in the wild card because they're in a shitty division. It does matter if you win the division in some like weird way. Like I don't necessarily agree that should be a thing, but it is the way that it is right now. So the way that it is right now, it does mean something to win the division, because you're guaranteed a top 4 seed in the playoffs. So for American League or National League.
I think no divisions at all would be weird.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's some,
just two conferences where it's broken up. I feel like that's strange.
Like, do you think conferences in the NBA, like, do you think that makes that league better? Like, I don't think so. In the NBA, the reason the NBA is so popular today in this country and just globally is because of the players. They're very popular. They have a lot of popular athletes. Baseball is different.
You play series, first of all. You're not just playing one game and moving on to the next city.
Fair. But also, like, I just feel like in baseball, Major League Baseball, it's so regional. Mm-hmm. Like, very few teams or very few people from Illinois are going to tune into the Kansas City Royals, for example, unless they're from Kansas City and just happen to live here. Like, it's very few people. People are watching the Cubs, the White Sox, maybe Milwaukee, and maybe St. Louis. Like, again, regional. Like, in the NBA, that's different. In the conference, like the conference thing that they have set up, like, let's be real, no one really gives a shit about the standings until like after the All-Star break.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And real baseball fans care about what the division looks like, what's going on from opening day until the end of the year. And to me, that's what like kind of does make baseball or MLB a little bit better than the NBA, because the people that whatever team they like, they're hardcore supporting that team through the entire thing. And I just feel like in the NBA, it's just a little bit more, well, this guy's playing well right now, and they're talking about him on First Take, so I'm going to tune into this game tonight because I'm interested to see what he's going to do. Like, and I'm not trying to say that the Bulls are not as big as the Cubs. I'm just saying that, like, I think the NBA is driven by players, and I think baseball is driven more by the teams more than the players. So to me, divisions and all that stuff means something because the fan bases hate each other. Those divisional rivals, they mean something more than, like, no one talks about the Bulls rivalry with the Pistons anymore. It's been dead since since the Bad Boys were put to bed. Who is the Bulls' real, like the most recent real rival that they had? Probably Miami when LeBron was there.
They haven't been good enough to have a real rival.
The Cubs, historically are never good.
It was
Miami.
Yeah, well, that's my point though. The Cubs historically are never good, yet we all still care about beating the Cardinals every year.
I don't care if they realign the divisions. I don't care if they add teams. I just want them to cut the season to 120 games. Shorten the season so we're not playing in freezing cold weather at the end of March and early April, and start the postseason earlier. Baseball's meant to be played in warm weather.
Yeah.
Why do you play the most important games of the season when it's practically ready to snow in the fall?
Yeah.
Sure. Pitch clock's
just
not enough for you?
Just to keep the numbers consistent.
I don't know.
Well, really, it's about money.
Pitch clock isn't enough for you?
No, pitch clock's not enough.
Game, get rid of
We could really add things up, 120 games, and make them 2 hours apiece. Now we got ourselves a season.
I don't think cutting it down to 120 is good. I feel like starting the season like mid to late April would be fine.
Cut it to 150.
Yeah, like 10 games I think would be fine.
Never happened.
Or add more double.
If anything, they're going to add more
but
games.
It is never going to happen.
I mean, they have already. If you look at the playoffs, they have added more games.
Yeah.
So,
never gonna happen. What is gonna happen is we will sit down with Hayden Wesneski in the CHGO Cubs podcast coming up Thursday, 1:20, live on YouTube or downloading, of course, for our friends at Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. So get ready for that. We're gonna have a good time with the Cubs pitcher, another guy that could really have a breakout season. Like, I think a lot of people are expecting big season out of Hayden Wesneski, just like Seiya Suzuki and maybe, hopefully, Cody Bellinger. We'll see. So we'll see you at 1:20 tomorrow. Thanks to everybody that joined us in the chat today. We appreciate it. Always a good time. A lot of good comments today. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out. And thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app. Use the promo code CHGO when you sign up, and we will see you here 1:20 Thursday for Hayden Wesneski. Until then, fly the W.